So it's not like people of deep religious conviction aren't paying income taxes. I'm paying them. I'm paying a bunch of taxes like you are, Mark. So the question is, why wouldn't we be eligible for a student loan program? Why wouldn't our children be eligible to participate in a student loan program?
Couple of quick questions about the Office of Faith-Based Initiatives. You wrote in a recent op-ed on The Hill, on their Congress blog, and it was titled Faith-Based Farce, about your analysis of the current state of the office. How would you gauge how the office currently stands?
I'm disappointed. You know, I had high hopes. When President Obama kept the office open, I applauded him for it. He could have stuck it in the Smithsonian. You know, he probably had a lot of pressure from the liberal flank of his party to do that. He didn't. So I was hopeful he was going to go and continue to mobilize America's armies of compassion. But what he's done is really mobilized armies of contraception. He has turned the office into a political outreach for this initiative. They've been organizing conference calls with groups. They're driving a wedge within the Catholic Church. With some organizations peeling them off. I just think it's wrong. You know, every White House is political, every White House is partisan, but the faith-based office, and when I was there, we worked with more Democrats than we did Republicans, and I met with the ACLU and Americans United, Separation of Church and State, so I've been disappointed by it, and to see that office out there leading the charge to trample religious rights, and to not even sit down and meet with the cardinals and bishops and say, tell us how we can accommodate your self-insurance needs. For them not to even have made that effort, why does the office exist? It's a huge waste of tax dollars, and he should close it.
There was a rebuttal on the same blog. This is Joel Hunter. He's the senior pastor of Northland Church in Orlando. This is called Jim Towey is Wrong About President Obama. One of the things he says is demonizing the president, implying a nefarious conspiracy, and ignoring the tremendous advancement that has taken place in the faith communities. Partnering with the government and answering people's needs is misinformed and incorrect.
Well, I think the good pastor ought to reread what I wrote. I didn't demonize President Obama. I wish him well. I'm an American like everybody else, and I'm out of politics and glad I'm out of it. When you read Pastor Hunter's response, he almost made the case of my argument. There is nothing to show in the way of product or performance for the faith-based office after 3 years. There's been a double standard where, you know, President Obama chose as the director a Pentecostal minister who was the head of his political outreach in the campaign to religious groups. So he chose a community organizer that was going to go in there. And then when you saw the Oval Office organize and President Obama direct a conference call in advance of the 2010 elections to talk about the health care reform bill that was unpopular, I thought to myself, you know, if as faith-based director, if I had gone to President Bush and said, President Bush, the Iraq war is unpopular, why don't we organize a faith-based call out of the Oval Office to all the religious leaders to mobilize them in support of this in advance of the elections that were taking place in '06, he would have fired me. That's not what a faith-based office should be about. It needs to be, attempt to be bipartisan, and I don't see any record of that. And I don't see any effort made by that office. So I think Pastor Hunter should be a little more careful with his choice of words that I did that. And I also think he made my case. He provided no specific proof of any tangible results after 3 years. It's been purely a political outreach operation.
One more question. From your perch, what goes through your mind when you hear other people question the sincerity of President Obama's faith? I
don't like it. I think people have a right to their relationship with God, and God searches the hearts of man. And I don't like when people come in and start making allegations or just accusing people of how sincere their faith is or how insincere their faith is. I think that's not helpful in public discourse. You know, people of faith are on a journey, and you know, judge not lest ye be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. I think we have to be careful when we certainly can raise questions about policies and go after them with great enthusiasm. That's part of America, isn't it? But I think when we start to attack whether a person is truly what they say they are in faith, I think you got to be careful with that.
Camdenton, Missouri, Democrats line. John, go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning. I'm tired of being forced to support all these religions. And you ask, how am I supporting them, even though I'm an atheist? Because every church property in the United States, every church, school, hospital is tax exempt. The largest property owner in the United States, other than the federal government, is the Catholic Church. You pay no taxes. That forces my local property taxes to be higher because of all the property around here occupied by churches, religious schools, pay no taxes, which causes my taxes to be higher. So if you want to get involved in a government, I would suggest that you take away your own tax-exempt policies, start paying local taxes, supporting the people here.
Well, John, I pay taxes too, and so I guess, and I'm happy that part of my taxes are supporting the works that Lutheran Social Service Ministries do and the works that many different faith organizations do in America. So and I also think that the U.S. Supreme Court has upheld the constitutionality of all this, so it's lawful. You disagree with it, you're an atheist, and I'm not surprised that that would be your perspective. But the reality is, when you look at the good that's being done today by faith-based organizations based in all different faiths and by community organizations that are filled with many faith-filled people, America would look completely different if they weren't doing the good works that they're doing. And it would cost government a lot more to provide those services because these volunteers aren't paid a penny. So when you look at the value that's added by the churches and synagogues, mosques in America, and the good works that they do, that value is overwhelming, and I think that's why there are preferential tax treatments for not only faith-based charities, but all nonprofits. The U.S. government wants to encourage Eliam-missionary activity, good philanthropy, and the work of these groups that work for far less money than they could in the private sector. So I don't think, John, your argument holds up when you look at the economics of it either. America gets a great deal of benefit from these faith-based groups.
One more call, Los Angeles, California. Rebecca on our Republican line. Go ahead.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, go ahead.
Okay, well, I went to Catholic school for 10 years, and I love the Catholic Church, and I do agree very much that religious organizations do a lot of good. However, as a woman, I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, and you need to take hormonal birth control to prevent your body from developing cysts, and they're extremely painful. And that birth control is $40 a month, and believe it or not, for people like me, you can't afford that. That's really expensive. So to have your insurance pay that $40 a month so you can take the birth control pill so you don't develop cysts on your ovaries, that's a health concern. So you said earlier, oh, we would never want to, hurt people, the blood transfusion thing, that's different. But this does hurt people. You're denying women who need contraception to prevent cysts on their ovaries from being able to access it because it is really expensive. So you're hurting those women. And so I kind of think this is the Catholic Church really just attacking women because, I have a friend who's Muslim, and she has a friend in this Sharia school who makes women sit in a different part of the class than men, and they try to segregate the women, and it scares me, the Catholic Church is going down the same route as Islam, is they're trying to oppress women, trying to take women's rights away, trying to say, oh no, we know better than you, we don't want to pay for you to have contraception, that violates our religious rights. But what about the woman's rights?
Okay, Rebecca, we'll have to leave it there. And
yeah, I mean, Rebecca, I think many Catholic health plans provide prescription coverage when it's for the medical issue that you raised. That's provided, and that's sustaining health treatment. That's not in violation. And I think many Catholic dioceses actually have health plans that permit that. So that's not the issue. And I have to say, and my wife, if she were here, would argue strenuously with you on this issue that the Catholic Church is attacking women. You listen to Helen Alvarez and others, leaders, they're appalled by what the administration is doing right now and trying to coerce faith-based groups. So I just think this idea of a war on women or a Catholic Church attack on women, I don't see it. My wife doesn't see it. A lot of women that I know don't see it. So that you can have a difference of opinion about what the church teaches, and you had some of its education. You can have a difference of opinion on that, but to make the accusation that the church is attacking women, that just sounds like a political stump speech from the left wing of the Democratic Party.
Jim Towey, the former director of the White House Office of Faith-Based and Community Initiatives and the current president of Ave Maria University. Thank you.
Great being with you. Thank you.